Welcome to Taking Care of Business on News Talk 1180 KERN for the best in Saturday talk radio at 1 o'clock and on 1230 KGEO at 10 o'clock on Saturday, and for the very best in Wednesday talk radio on 1410 KERI, the Christian station. We are now on 1000 KKIM in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and now we are in Richmond, Oakland, and the San Francisco Bay Area. My partner in crime, Clay Kerner, is out working today. I'm Marty Pay, and our producer is Greg Held. In 1918, on the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month, the war to end all wars came to a brutal end. Millions died in a very long and costly war that changed forever the map of the world. Our Veterans Day, as we know it, is a result of that war. And today we want to honor our veterans. In the second half, we have a friend here locally, Jim Escalay, talking about his great new book, Unforgotten Hero. But now by phone, we have an old friend of the program, the man who wrote the book on SEAL Team 6, Eric Blehm. Eric, welcome back to Taking Care of Business.
Marty, thanks for having me.
Boy, this is like, what, the third time we've had you, I think?
I think so, and it's awesome that you get such great feedback from your listeners and that you are so taken by Adam Brown's story. I really appreciate you having me back.
You know, it's a great story, and I want to talk to you about some of your other books. And I know last time you and I talked a little bit about American Sniper, and I want to talk a little bit about that interview you had with Chris Kyle. So we got a lot of things I want to cover this Veterans Day weekend with you.
No problem. I'm ready.
Now, we've picked up, since the last time we talked to you, we've picked up 2 stations. So I want to start off by talking a little bit about your book, The Story of SEAL Team 6 and Adam Brown. Tell our new listeners a little bit about the book.
Well, Fearless is really, it's the prodigal son meets SEAL Team 6. It's a story of a boy from Hot Springs, Arkansas, who was just a great kid growing up. I won't go into all the anecdotes, but just the kid who all the parents wanted their kids to hang out with because he was polite, he was honest, and he was just known for doing the right thing even when no one was watching. And after high school into college, he got into kind of a wrong crowd, and he tried crack cocaine one night, and that just changed his world. He went into a very dark place. Trying that drug just one time, it changes the chemistry in your brain, so you will crave it for the rest of your life. And Adam Brown himself admitted he turned into a criminal, a dirtbag. He had multiple felony counts, went to jail ultimately, but he got a second chance, and that second chance was with the Navy. He was offered waivers, to sign waivers. Somebody put a commandant that knew him as a child, who was a big recruiter in the Navy, put his own career on the line, saying, this boy deserves a second chance. And he joined the Navy with the opportunity to make the SEALs. If he could pass all the qualifications, he did so, and he rose to the very top tier, SEAL Team 6, our top secret clearance counterterrorism unit, which is just a miracle in itself. Somebody coming from jail, felony counts, crack addiction to even get to that level. And then at the end of the day, he always put others in front of himself. He always made sure that he was taking care of his brothers, his family, his friends, and he was killed in combat one night on St. Patrick's Day in 2010.
Now, you were talking about his drug use, and I was going to make a little crack, pun intended, about it's the Navy, and they'll take almost anybody. But just a little joke there, since I'm an ex-Marine. But he had, like you said, there was a commandant that really put his neck out there on the line for him. Could you explain that story?
Well, Adam Brown, as a kid, he had a really good friend named Jeff Bushman, and his father was a recruiter in the Navy. In fact, he rose to the second highest. He was the highest ranking recruiter in that whole half of the country. And when Adam got in all these problems, Jeff Bushman, when he was trying to help him find a path in life, he said, why don't you try the Navy? And he said, they won't even look at me, look at my record. And he ended up going into a recruiter, and he was very honest. He said, this is good to be my path in life. I'm going to be honest because it will haunt me if I don't. And so he told the recruiter, when he asked him the cursory questions, which was, have you been in jail? And he said, yes, sir, I have. Do you have a history of any drug use? And he said, yes, sir, I do. And he just looked at him and listened. This recruiter leaned forward and said, are you kidding me, son? He said, you can't join the Navy with a record like that. And he said, well, maybe you can talk to that guy right there. And that's when he pointed to a picture on the wall in the recruiting office. And one was a picture of Bill Clinton, the then president, and the other was Commandant Bushman, who was, again, the highest-ranking recruiter in that half of the country. And he said, give him a call. So he called him up, the recruiter, and he said, I'm sorry to bother you, sir. There's a kid here, and a young man in Hot Springs, Arkansas, who claims that he knows you and that you might vouch for him. He's got a laundry list he's got a record, a rap sheet, a mile long. He is not a good fit for the Navy, sir. And Commandant Bushman said, I do know Adam Brown. And he said, and you treat him like he's my own son. And the reason he did that, this is a classic example of your reputation will precede you, because Adam, when he knew his Commandant Bushman's son as a kid, he witnessed a few cases. I'll just share one of them with your listeners. One was he was invited to a boat party, a lake party at Bushman's house. And this was when Adam was 15 years old. And believe it or not, he ultimately became a SEAL, but at the time, he wasn't the best swimmer. And his mom, at age 15, said, I cannot let you go to this party. I do not trust your swimming abilities to go to this lake party. And Adam's just like, oh, come on, Mom, this is going to be the coolest party of the summer. Girls are going to be there, guys. This is a cool thing. And she said, I will let you go if you promise to wear a life preserver the entire time and do not take it off. And he said, I promise. Well, Commandant Bushman witnessed this. And while they were out on this flotilla of boats, water skiing and jumping in the lake and having a good time, guys and girls alike, it is not cool to have an orange life preserver when you're 15 years old hanging out with your buddies and the girls. So Commandant Bushman witnessed this, and he heard at one point one of the guys say, Adam, come on, your mom's nowhere around. You can swim fine. Take that stupid thing off. And Adam said, it's okay. I promised. And he did that. He came home with a suntan, a sunburn in the shape of that life preserver, and it was just a very important moment, because 10 years later, when he had taken these wrong turns in life, this man remembered that. And there were a couple other instances as well. And that is what gave Commandant Bushman the comfort level in putting his own career on the line. He said, this boy has character. He has something in deep, and I think that we deserve to give him, or he deserves a second chance.
Yeah, that's a great story. This Veterans Day weekend, we are speaking with Eric Blehm, author of Fearless, Story of SEAL Team 6 and Adam Brown. So, Eric, when you were talking about his parents, I remember something from the book, and by the way, it's a great book. I highly, highly recommend it, where his parents helped him when he hit rock bottom, and there was a moment there that changed his life, turned it around, that a party you were talking about?
Yeah, there's a few more. Are you talking about when he was in jail? Or are you talking about...
The story when his mom's at one door and his dad's at the other, and the cops are coming to get him?
Absolutely. This is when they got to a point in their life where they just realized that they could not fix Adam Brown, and their son, who they were just heartbroken by what he'd become. And they finally called the sheriff, and when he had these multiple warrants out for his arrest, and they found out where he was one day. And she went to the back door of this house. It was a crack house, known for crack users and dealing. And they went to the back door, and his dad went to the front door, and she knew he'd go out the back door when his father had knocked on the front door. He ran out the back door, and she grabbed him. And she held his wrist as firm as she could, and she said, Adam, don't run. His father said, it's time for you to face what you've done, and we've called the sheriff, and you're going to go face and come clean with what you've done, and you're going to get better. And when Adam was handcuffed and put in the back seat of this Garland County Sheriff's Cruiser, he saw his mom collapse into his dad's chest, and her legs buckled, and she saw her just wailing into his father's chest. And he said right then, it broke his heart, and it was that moment where he knew that he had done very wrong by these parents who had raised him very well, not to be the guy that he'd become. And that was a moment where he said, he made a commitment, I'm going to get better.
Yeah, so that was the moment that changed his life, when he finally decided. And you talk about a kid with that's willing to just really, really stick by what he believes in, because he changed his life around totally to make not only to get in the Navy, but to make the SEAL team. I mean, that's incredible. And he made it with the number of injuries that he picked up along the way. Yeah,
he was a guy he would not quit. He was like that as a kid as well. He was a young, undersized kid when he played football, and he always took on the biggest players on the team. He was like the guy who stood up for the underdogs, even though he was kind of an undersized underdog himself. And when it caught time, in the Navy, he started suffering multiple injuries. He had a wife, Kelly, who was also really the second warrior in this story in Fearless, because she stood by his side even when he was at these crack houses, and also through all these injuries. He ended up getting injuries that would end most SEAL operators' careers, and he could have left the Navy at any time with a full medical discharge, disability, and a nice pension for the rest of his life. But he always said, no, I'm going to keep pushing. He lost his right eye, was shot out in training. He had the fingers on his right hand crushed off in combat in Afghanistan. And he would not give up. He taught himself to shoot left-handed. He became a sniper, shooting with a non-dominant eye rifle. And then ultimately he even qualified for SEAL Team 6. The most amazing qualification process that you can imagine. We're talking superhuman, ninja, Jedi level intuition, and he did it after training himself. When his whole life he'd fought and performed right, he taught himself to think and perform left-handed.
Yeah, that's incredible.
Imagine a football player in the Super Bowl being told 6 months before the Super Bowl, hey, you're going to start throwing left even though you're right-handed. You're taking the hike left. You're going to do everything left, and we're going to patch your eye so you don't have peripheral vision, and it's your non-dominant eye.
Incredible.
And then perform at the highest level. That did that only in life or death situations of grenades going off, clearing houses, SWAT team type situation where they're clearing houses, and he did it at a level that was really Jedi-like.
Yeah. Let's pick up there in a moment, okay? We'll be back in a moment on Taking Care of Business on Current Radio News Talk 1180.